33 thumbs up.
Open up the sky, baby, let the truth come rushing in.
Let's go.
Though you lay your heart go anywhere to sleep one night at a time. Now that all the waiting is over, I don't know what I want here. So hide among the bygone shadows where I am and you begin. Because it's never been a better time to be alive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, Wide Awake News Radio and DoonCast, and I'll explain that all here in just a minute. My name is Charlie McGrath. I am the founder of WideAwakeNews.com, Wide Awake News Radio. It is the 14th day of November, 2013. Those of you tuning in for Eric Lovely, I apologize. He was not able to make it tonight. He let me know that earlier today, and I told him I'd jump in and kill like 3 birds with 1 stone here, and let me explain. Tonight, Doug Owen and I were going to record DoonCast number 16, which we normally record on Wednesday, but being as Doug was under the weather, we were going to do it tonight. I have to do the radio program, and so we're going to combine them. We're going to do a simulcast of Wide Awake News Radio as well as DoonCast number 16. And for those of you who love the DoonCast music, Mr. Towley, and the intro there, I'm sure we can find time to squish that in. Go ahead, Doug. Let's hear that. Let's hear Towley.
All right. Let's see.
All right. Push your buttons.
There you go.
Sickly.
It's like I'm walking on sunshine.
Yeah. There we go. We got it both. Welcome to Wide Awake News Radio, DoonCast number 16. My name is Charlie McGrath. I am joined by Doug Owen. Doug, how are you this evening?
Wonderful. On the back end of a cold, so feeling better and almost able to taste things again, which is nice.
That is awesome. Tasting things makes eating that much more pleasurable, I have found.
You know, I would probably lose 30 pounds if I couldn't taste anything. It's just...
Yeah, but you're a pretty svelte guy. Here's something a lot of folks don't know about Doug Owen. You know, you might have seen him on my radio program before, or in other places. I don't know what other videos you might have done, Doug. But it's hard to tell on Skype, and I had no idea. You're a huge human being. Not huge as in fat and out of shape, but you're a big guy, 6'2", 210. I don't think I'd want to mess with you, Doug Owen.
Well, yeah. Well,
Not that I'm afraid.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not that big. Not that big. I mean, it's not. I'm not. 6'7" or something. There's people there much bigger and scarier than I, for sure.
You're pretty damn scary. I'm not going to lie. All right, guys. Here's the deal. I want to break down the situation with my radio program, and then we're going to jump into Doomcasting it. Me and Doug Owen. We bounced around all over time spots, and we finally ended up kind of back exactly where we started, which is 5 o'clock west, 6 o'clock mountain, 7 o'clock central, 8 o'clock east. This is going to be the spot we stay at. So if you're used to listening and getting into the chat room at that 5 o'clock west, 8 o'clock east time zone, get back into the chat. We will be here Monday through Friday. Now, the host situation is also going to mix up a little bit here. You're going to have me on more. Sometimes I'll be joining the other hosts. Sometimes it'll be just me by myself. But as a rule, as we go forward over for the rest of November, Monday is going to be Gary Hendershot. Tuesday is going to be Dinah Everett Snyder. Wednesday is going to be Karen Tostado. Thursday, Eric, and Friday, me. That's tentative. Now, I'm going to pop in with those guys randomly during the week because of the new time spot. I can do that. But I want to thank Karen Quintostado, who's going to be leaving the program at the end of this month. She's going to finish out her series she's working on right now, and she's going to take a break for a while. I'm happy because, everybody needs a break now and then, and I don't know if it's going to be permanent, but I completely understand her needing to step back, step away a little bit. So I'll be jumping back into the Wednesday spot. But I guess the biggest thing to take away from all this is Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock West, 8 o'clock East, we're back at our original time spot. So if you were used to coming into chat then and listening to the program, now's the time to get back into that routine. Right now we have 30 people in the Wide Awake News chat room. If you want to join myself and Doug and the folks in there, go to wideawakenews.com, click on the Wide Awake Radio link. That'll take you into chat. Let's get some more folks in there. I'm in there. Doug Owen's in there. And let's roll with Wide Awake News Radio / simulcasting DoonCast number 16. Doug, I have got stories lined up here that are fairly doomy and certainly very troubling. And I know you have a couple.
So they meet the criteria. Good.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not hard to meet the criteria, it seems, these days. I mean, just about anything that you pull, even out of establishment media, is doom-esque in nature. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah, pretty doomy. I mean, we like to kind of focus on some of the things that are not being given the light of day as a way to hopefully subvert them. And I think that might be happening with TPP. We're going to talk about that because it's going to affect the economy. You have a couple economic articles, but transparency across the board is going to lead towards, I think, better decisions. So it's not that it's all doom, but I think that we have to at least look at the potential for something pretty horrific to happen in the very near future, considering the people that are in charge. I mean, Janet Yellen, she's going to print more and more and more. So ultimately, what is going to be the ramifications of that and where we go? So it's not that there isn't light at the end of the tunnel. There's not. It's not that. I think that we get accused, number one, of our name being too doomy, so that we can't sell people on the doom. And then once people listen to the show, then some of them, I think a very vocal minority, do not believe that we are doomy enough. So, I don't know if you can really. It is what it is, and I think there's always an X factor in all of these equations, and it always goes right back to people being aware of options and of scams.
Yeah, I agree, and that stuck in the middle between, doomy and not doomy enough. That's probably where we want to be. Right?
Ideally, I mean, we wouldn't want it to be doomy in the future, but it may be. It may be.
Well, it's going to be. I think this is number 16 as far as our joint venture, DoonCast, and I think it's pretty well established that you'd agree. I'm less optimistic. I don't want to use the word pessimistic. I'm less optimistic of the future, I believe, than you are, Doug Owen.
Right. Probably.
Would you agree with that?
Sure.
And so I look at these same stories you're talking about. You sent me a great article on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That is hell on paper right there. And these other economic stories show that while we're joking around and poking fun at, I'm talking about the political parties now, about, look how big of a joke the call-in system is for Obamacare. Hey, look how we can razz these guys and take some seats in 2014. There are real economic issues going on that are literally sealing the fate of the financial future of this nation and the people listening to us. Regardless if you consider yourself to be in this truth movement, awaken movement, or you consider yourself to be mainstream, you better wake up and realize what's coming because, Doug, it is absolutely doomy, especially looking at the first story I want to bring up tonight, which is how the House has just voted to protect Citigroup and others on Wall Street from their gambling losses again. Did you see this story by chance?
I did, yes.
Let me break it down in a nutshell for those of you who might have not heard this. In the midst and in and amongst all the made-for-TV infodrama that has been presented to you since the government shutdown and the debt ceiling and now Obamacare, well, all this garbage is going on that's meant to distract. And in the end of the day, nothing changes. Everybody realizes this, that they play this wheel over and over and over again, the same game over and over again. Point the finger, blame the red team, blame the blue team, get a bunch of people ticked off and fighting amongst themselves. And while they're distracted and everything will come out the exact same regardless, we'll go ahead and put legislation through that really screws over the American people. And in this case, it will be the people of the world. The House passes this provision to the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010. It is an 81-page piece of legislation, 85-line bill, of which Citigroup, right, one of the too big to fail, $45 billion in bailout money, key player in the collapsing of the economy in 2008, and the financial raping of a nation since then, wrote 70 lines of the 85 lines. And in a nutshell, it breaks down that if they go through another, I shouldn't say if, when we are led into another financial collapse, a real one this time, not a shock and awe terrorist scare tactic like we had in 2008, but a real financial collapse this time, they will again, not be left, you gave me your cold, Doug, not be left holding the bag, and they can use FDIC insured money to gamble with once again. You see, derivatives in 2008, they got rid of Bear Stearns, Countrywide Mortgage, AIG, Lehman Brothers, Washington Mutual, Wachovia, and many others. They all went away because of the gambling practices of playing in the derivatives market. Now, a lot of these companies and the players that made up the ownership and CEO-ship of these companies, they never went away. They just were shuffled into other organizations like Citigroup and others. But all these fraudulent activities by these companies that were undertaken, you think that with Dodd-Frank, everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. They can't use this public money again. Yet our House of Representatives voted fairly overwhelmingly, 292 to 122, to go ahead and let these companies do the exact same thing they did into the lead up to 2008. So, Doug, once again, we see that the more things change, the more they stay exactly the same.
Right. Well, for anybody that's not cued in to what's going on, these are SIFIs. And I know that I sound like a SIFI, that something like, it sounds like an ailment, but a SIFI is a systemically important financial institution that cannot fail. Basically, taxpayers, you and I, and all of those that put into the system, the stakeholders in this country, and other global investors put into the system here. All of us that are on the take for this, we back these institutions because they are detrimental, and there's so much public interest in these corporations. They have so many retirement accounts. There's so much money there that the government deems them so powerful that if they do fail, that they will just wipe out the citizens of this country and the rest of the Western world, where you have actual savers. If you look at the third world, people aren't saving themselves or for themselves. You just have other systems. But where you have retirement accounts, which is the next target and the next way to reapothecate all of this worthless debt, and you mentioned the credit default swaps and derivatives that are being underwritten. And so it goes even beyond just these different companies like J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, of course Goldman Sachs, that we know are criminally negligent, and in many cases directly working with drug cartels. I mean, they are ultimately what we believe to be the secret owners of the Federal Reserve. So. Yeah, just another day, just another day in empire, just another day on Wall Street. But
right.
The rest of the regulations that are being used against us, not only when we talk about all of the NSA spying, but the regulations that are being discussed in secret beyond this. I mean, this is something that just 5-6 years ago would have been outrageous. People would have been appalled and angered. Now it's. Well, we're just getting screwed. It's another day of getting screwed by the man.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Doug. That's a really good point. In fact, I was on another program earlier today, and I talked about we got a little bit more into what seems to be slightly conspiratorial in nature. Talking about potential barcodes on people or implants, chips, and things like that.
Right.
That kind of seems conspiratorial, but I made the point what you just said, which is I said a decade ago, if you laid out before somebody where our country would go right after 9/11, where we would go as far as our freedom, where we would go as far as our financial future, and you pointed them to exactly where we were in 2013 with $17 trillion in debt and carte blanche for these banks and them writing legislation that governs the financial sector and the Federal Reserve having unlimited power. They would have said the exact same thing then as people would say now about, these facial recognition, drones, implants, barcodes, all that kind of stuff that we hear about and talk about every single day. When the mainstream folks, right, when the cattle, as it were, hear these kind of stories, they think, well, you guys are loony, right? You're stocking up peanut butter and ammo, and you're
Right. Yeah, I get
it. My buddy Doug is back. He's feeling better.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But seriously though, you have to be able to, if you're living in this country,
those things are passe now. That to your point, it's passe now, and really, you look at you and I in this show and what you do. And that's a moderate approach. It's a moderate viewpoint. That used to be a very extremist, a very rare viewpoint to be anti-globalization, anti-Federal Reserve, and to be an advocate of individual freedom. Those things were pretty rare just 10 years ago. So I mean, it shows you how the shift, the zeitgeist has really changed.
Yeah. But let me throw this in here. Yes. The thing, what's that?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't hear what you said. I think you buzzed out on me. But I was going to say is that even though those things that you just mentioned, individual freedom, the Federal Reserve, and other topics that have become more leaning towards mainstream, certainly more than when you started Blacklisted News and Blacklisted News Radio. You were 5 years before the collapse in 2008, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well before. So certainly when you began, those would have been more extremist views and are not now. However, my point was, if we're talking to the same people today that have lived through the experience of out-of-control Federal Reserve and everything we just talked about, and you talk to that same person now about where we go in the next 5 or 10 years, unfortunately, I think there's still a big majority that would just grab onto, I don't believe that's going to happen. These are the same people that would have said in 2001, I don't think this is going to happen by 2013. And bam, here it is. So, yes, people are more aware of the things that did transpire over the last decade, and more of those topics that you have talked about and I've talked about have become more mainstream. But I think it's imperative that we keep trying to get people to the side of being awake and understand that it isn't just stopping here at $17 trillion. It isn't just stopping at drones and facial recognition and all this other liberty-killing apparatus that's being put into place. It's going to get a whole lot worse, and ergo, DoonCast.
Yes. The global political awareness that's happening that Zygmunt Brzezinski and all of his buddies are very worried about. People are becoming politically aware, not just through this show, but obviously – the fact that we have access to information, people do want to be part of the conversation. The conversation's extending. But, I think that as long as we have to look to organizations like WikiLeaks to find out what's happening with TPP and how 600 corporations are actually circumventing our Congress, and there's going to be a battle there because Congress is not going to cede all of its power to the TPP, but the 12 nations that are planning on participating along with this controlling 40% of global domestic product. Okay, that is a huge, secretive, very powerful, and sovereignty-crushing apparatus that we can't even have a discussion about. We can't have discourse over because we don't even have those facts. They don't want the challenge. They don't want the debate. And you could say, well, they don't want people immediately dismembering all of their ideas, and that's why they want to put this out once it's refined, once all the stakeholders and countries
Doug, let me have you, because you kind of jumped into the meat of that story.
Yeah.
And why don't you explain a little bit what the TPP is and this information that you brought to my attention today, but talk a little bit about what the TPP is and how this is happening in the shadows.
Right. TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's this agreement. Some are attributing it to Barack Obama, but I saw that Michael Snyder did a piece talking about how this is really, I think ultimately, and I agree with him, the New World Order, if you will, or part of the apparatus. It is an agreement between nations over things like IP control, and there's this secret, very, very interesting IP chapter that I was reading through that basically brings via stealth SOPA and ACTA. So some of the listeners, I'm sure, and yourself are aware of SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, which basically undermines fair use. It undermines intellectual property rights and gives this huge amount of authority and corporate governance or corporate power through government, this collusion to basically stifle free speech and expressionism in a lot of different forms. It regulates everything from pharmaceutical drugs, patenting, and the anti-piracy aspect to that. It emboldens this global police force, Interpol, and other agencies. And, of course, the big corporations behind it, General Motors, Monsanto, and others. So we'll talk about it, I guess, on the other side.
Yeah, we're going to be right back with Doug Owen and more Wide Awake News Radio and more DoonCast number 16. We'll be right back.
Don't come out here no more. Can't you see that it's...
All right.
Hi.
There.
Hi, buddy.
Yeah, that was a little awkward. Sorry about the dead air, people.
No, I don't think there was. I think he
No. I mean, right there, because we're still kind of recording and
we're
putting it out there.
Sorry, I forgot. We're still rolling on DoonCast 16. But I don't want you to get. I want to get more into this TPP thing because I was a little bit confused by this article you sent.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out if this part of this was commentary or if this was all factual. Because after reading this, it seemed as if this thing might be DOA, and
What's
I'm
that,
hoping
TPP?
it is.
Oh well. Well, there's a lot of different versions of TPP. There's TPP, there's TP IP, there's some other versions of this, the ASEAN Union. So this is just one of many treaties. This one's actually been discussed now for well over, I think, 5 years in careful planning. And so this is just a way to harmonize regulations and make it easier for law enforcement working at the behest of the record companies and the big, media conglomerates to go after people individually and to go after quote unquote pirates. So I don't want to continue to regurgitate this though when we come back on the Rents channel though, but it's.
Well, I won't make you regurgitate, buddy. You've probably done enough of that in the last 24, 48 hours.
No, that's not too bad. I blessed. It's just like a real general bad cold. I haven't had one in a long time, but no fever, no aches, no body pains, none of the other,
we call that a low dose doom cold, is what you had there.
Yeah, low dose.
Low dose.
Yeah,
low dose doomer.
Yes.
Oh my. OMD. I think I saw an OMG somewhere today, and I thought OMD. That's another T-shirt we could do.
Yeah, we should. We should do a T-shirt one of these days. We'll make it exclusive.
Doom.
Exclusive. I've got a T-shirt guy I got to get with.
I got a T-shirt guy.
Do you?
Actually, it's a T-shirt gal.
Yeah. Well, we should get with her if she does good work.
Yeah,
it's just about getting good organic tees and getting a decent silk screen.
That's exactly right. I know you don't want to regurgitate this, but I am fascinated by where this is going to go and how this is just not talked about. I mean, it's just not anywhere.
Well, there's a little bit of coverage. There's going to be more of it. There's going to be more of this, and it's supposed to be. They're trying to get this thing all hammered out before the end of the year, so we're already rocking into November. Yeah, we'll talk about it because I've got a few different articles, and I've got some other really creepy stuff that it's going to trickle into. I talked about it beforehand, how it's pretty passe, some of the stuff that we talk about, those technologies that are so intrusive, so invasive, so in your children's bedrooms. And I've got some stuff that's going to creep out the parents here a little bit, and some other fine examples of how awareness can bring at least, I mean, it's not so much awareness, it's shaming the government and the criminals and shining lights on them that brings the cleansing, it brings the sterilization of crime.
Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful description. Cleansing. The cleansing rays of sunshine. All right, we continue on with DoonCast number 16. We rejoin Wide Awake News Radio only on the Rinse Radio Network on this 14th day of November as we carry on talking about the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, just horrifying legislation that globalizes the financial world, the business world, and Doug, it makes just about every horrific internet law that we've seen or copyright law that we've seen and talked about over the years come to pass through treaty, circumventing government. Truly, it is global financial governance that, or as Michael Sanders said, this is the new world order.
Right. Well, it's one of many daggers in the back of the American people, and it's another shift and transfer of power away from our elected representatives into the executive, into the corporate realm. So you do have corporatocracy, you have or kleptocracy. Use whatever ocracy you like to describe what we have here. Fascism's a pretty blanket, simplistic way to look at the fusion between the state and the corporation. So who are the big players? It's not just TPIP, and it's not just those rights, but those extend into our ability to purchase pharmaceutical drugs. A lot of countries that you can go to now and get drugs pretty cheap, and it's because of the ability.
Mexican Viagra, as we've talked about before.
Have we? I don't remember that conversation, but you should refresh. Maybe.
I don't want to refresh. I just want to put that out there. Let it hang there.
Yeah, well, that's where it should.
Blue cloud.
Should sit right out there. You're dating yourself right there.
I got a question for you though from the chat room from Meat Dog.
Nice.
In the chat, he asks if for the guest, that's you, Doug, is Congress making any serious attempt to stop the TPP treaty? I think you alluded to that a little bit. That you think this won't pass without a fight. They're not ready to cede their power over, although I completely disagree with that. But go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Actually, I have a piece on blacklistednews.com from Tech Dirt, which is Mike Masnick and the guys over there are very highly critical. And you think about this. I mean, being one of the 22 House Republicans that are, the 151 House Democrats that are going to be signing off, it's giving your competition more power, and it's really kind of relegating you. So, and making you more and more valueless. So I think that there's a balance. There's a trade-off. I think that Congress does want to be in the loop, and at some point they have to be, because this is going to be so highly unpopular, and it's basically a way to mitigate any kind of local subverting of these laws. So basically, let's just put a scenario out here. Monsanto gets the right to gets whatever licensing it needs to grow genetically modified rice in Taiwan. Well, if people in the U.S., say California, decide and vote and get their elected officials to put forward or to get model legislation to stop this contamination, if that goes forward and they do stop Monsanto, now they have a legal right to sue the state of California. They may be able to hold individuals responsible. So it's this huge legal framework which completely stifles competition. And what's happening is that we have this old guard that is becoming irrelevant more and more by the day. With 3D printing, with many of the technological advances and the ability to really, recreate almost any technology or any drug or any human creation that is put out there, it's hard for the monopoly men to hold on to this power. So these are some of the last, I think, attempts to be able to really control people through these mass transit systems. because there is going to be that shift, whether there's a crash or whether the natural progression towards individualism and away from globalism happens, where we start looking for local solutions that apply to local areas, because that's the only way that we can really find, I think, ultimately, and I hate to use this buzzword, but sustainable solutions, whether it comes to the power grid, farming. You can print your own toys now. If you look at some of the food that's at schools, you can print that with your own pink slime at home.
You can slime printer.
It's just a matter of time. And people laugh about that, but it's only a matter of time before you'll be able to print your own food. And we're talking within the next decade or two, within the next 20 years.
That goes right to what we were talking about earlier. The things that sound crazy now, they're not going to in 5 years.
No.
In 2 or 3,
People would say, well, why would you ever want to eat that, Doug? And that is crazy. But my grandmother, she thought, why would you need, the government to give you a marriage license? She didn't need one, in 1922 when she got married. She didn't need a...
I don't need any dang government license.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't need a Social Security number to think that you're going to bring a child into this world without a Social Security number. Pretty crazy and antiquated idea, to say the least.
All right, but I guess the question was, so your answer is Congress is going to try to hold on to some vestige of power and fight this?
Maybe.
Is that it?
Maybe. It depends on how much of a reaction there is by the public. I mean, obviously, if you have a huge global outcry, there are going to be, ramifications. Then, especially with many of these people that are put into power with the unions and what's left of the trades and manufacturing unions in respective states, some of those power players may be more invested in it. So, I mean, don't hold your breath, but at some point, I think that a lot of this is going to be pretty much null and void anyway. I was just thinking about
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope that at some point, Congress decides it needs to look at its responsibilities as representing the people of this country, not international corporations or international globalist New World Order agenda. I would hope that would happen. But, our very recent history, just as an example, shows the exact opposite to be true, that the needs and the wants and the best interest of the people of this country are certainly not at the forefront, at least of the power brokers in Washington. Maybe not all members of Congress, but certainly the ones that control what's voted on and not, and what issues are raised and not, have stabbed their knife deep in the back of the American people time and time again.
No, and I agree with you, but let me give you this example. There's a bar that has a new sign out there, and it says, now smoke free. Recently, just within the last few years in Austin, Texas, the fine city council there decided to make all establishments smoke free. So the government basically dictated to per personal, private companies and businesses to what they could do. And they basically, started this whole snitch network to chase bar owners into complying with this. And ultimately, it just pushed people outside onto bars and decks that are created outside and just got more people probably wasting more energy and now smoking in public. So whether that really helped anything, you have to wonder if it just moved smokers, 10 feet out of the door. But ironically, in a county that I live in, they don't have these laws. And you can smoke in bars and establishments and restaurants. But it's not because of the government these establishments are pushing smokers outside. It's because naturally people are starting not to want to smell smoke, and society is changing. So it's not the government legislation, it's not the brilliant people on the Hill that are doing anything that's effectual. It's just society and people being more aware in that shift and change away from that 50s era. Hey, my doctor says that Lucky Strikes are smooth on the throat. Well, we know a little bit more now than we did then, and so there's been that shift. So, yeah, the government makes all these laws, but at some point, that's what I'm saying, is they become irrelevant, they become arbitrary. It's just like, the blue laws in Texas where you can't carry wire clippers in the front seat of your car because of cattle rustling. Although that's actually making a comeback because of the economy in this country.
That's right. That's right.
So-
Organized crime or a black market.
That's becoming more relevant too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we're gonna break out on Wide Awake News Radio on the Rinse Radio Network. We're gonna continue on with DoonCast number 16 during the commercial break. We'll be right back with more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Hang tight. Whoa, can you feel it? Can you feel it, Doug?
Yeah, I feel it.
We get a little.
These hogs like beef.
What was that?
I am not a dictator. I'm the president.
Keep them running, man. We haven't heard any all night.
Oh, I'm just
You know what?
playing.
You know what? Here's
Something wrong.
I want the too delicious to believe.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I do.
It's almost too delicious to believe, my friend.
I think you know what? Hillary's growing.
People are
on
like,
me.
oh, people. Well, she'll be around. Don't worry.
Oh,
You'll
she
get
ain't going
plenty of
anywhere.
her real quick. She just got her facelift. She's going to be back on the circuit after they inject her with all of the botulism, all of the what is that stuff? The crap that John Kerry shoots into his eyeballs.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Not Botox.
Botox. Yeah, there you go.
That's the one. Botoxio.
All right.
Here's the deal, though. I mean, I saw your analogy there with smokers and all that, but
right.
if the economy is structured to only function under the guidelines of the TPP or some other New World Order global financial structure, I mean, you either operate legally inside of that parameter, or you have massive black markets, massive everything becomes illegal. Anybody who tries to do anything on the internet or even outside of a corporate structure suddenly falls prey to some of these ridiculous laws that'll be placed on small business and individual entrepreneurs to favor these corporate interests, special interests. I mean, this seems far, far more likely to be a net that's hard to get out of compared to looking at something like the smoking issue.
That's
you know what I mean?
but that's what happens, right? I mean, at some point, it's ineffectual. The government can't enforce laws that it creates. Prohibition's a good example. Marijuana, cannabis in this country is another fine example.
Yeah. All right, we continue on with DoonCast number 16. Doug Owen, co-founder of DoonCast, DoonCast.com. What is it on Spreaker? DoonCast.Spreaker, blah, blah, blah.
DoonCast.com. Just go there.
All right, and of course we continue on with Wide Awake News Radio on the Rinse Radio Network. Let's move on because we're running into about 15 minutes of time left here, and the Xbox story, that one you sent me. Tell me about this, Doug Owen.
Yeah,
Tell me what's
we were talking about the mark of the beast, or this merger into the surveillance society in general. I guess speaking of it generally, well, it's pretty interesting. The government just decided to expand its radically interesting facial recognition systems and capabilities, and this came out of RT on the 13th, just yesterday. And so it's interesting how all of these things kind of happen in concert. It's called the Janus program. It's part of IARPA, which is the intelligence CIA's version of DARPA. So this is all heavily militarized and weaponized, and they're getting lots of money to basically be able to define people's moods, the behavioral detection aspect of it. So what this is going to turn into is one of these big boondoggles like Solyndra, or like the cameras in the back of the plane's seats. I don't remember if you remember this, but they're going to put cameras in there and apparently be able to figure out with you squinting and wincing and, I don't know.
when you're about to do something nefarious.
I mean, you might be about to attack somebody, and you might be a terrorist, or maybe you have to fart. Who knows? But either way, you're going to take a ride with an air marshal kind of situation when it comes to that. So it's interesting that Xbox, they have this thing called the Kinect, and the Kinect is basically this high-tech joystick for all of our older listeners, and basically it's for playing video games, but it is basically a full spectrum sensor. So it can look at all of your body. It can determine a lot of different things from the facial recognition and biometric interface that it has, which allows you to do cool things in the game, be able to kind of get into an AI reality. So, but when you start looking into the Department of Homeland Security and how interested they are in the virtual world, virtual currencies, the virtual landscape, and we've all heard the stories. If you haven't, go to blacklistnews.com. You'll find tons of them about the DHS searching virtual worlds for terrorists and actually creating digital dossiers on people's activities in worlds like World of Warcraft. So Fast Code Design is this website that had this piece, and the headline says it all. The Xbox One's IR, that's infrared camera, can see your privates even in the dark. And if you actually link over to the original, it shows you how this IR, because it has that ability to look at you in the dark, can basically outline and penetrate clothing. And so some of the guys that were testing this in a cozy room with the Xbox One were playing around with this Skype video, this 3D aspect, and noticed that there was this, pretty much
direct outline
that pretty much could see your genitalia on boys
Yeah,
and
and
girls pretty clearly.
This will be standard equipment, right, in the new Xbox One. This IR camera and the 3D,
but
the high fidelity 3D.
Yeah, and I mean they have this ability at the airport, TSA. They're all being empowered with this, and we're being normalized to this, which is just blows me away, because things that you would think, well, the government wants to put this in my bedroom and they want to see my children's genitals. You're like, well, no, but that's what's happening. Absolutely. I mean, it's not a grand conspiracy. People just want these technologies and are completely, I think, in love and have put down their guard and have no idea how intrusive they actually can be. It comes, I mean, it's listening to you all the time, and as we move into the smarter world, if you will, there's going to be a push for these technologies to be used as a way to save energy, as a way to enhance our lives, as a way to make us more efficient.
It can only be sold in one of two ways. Either wrap it in a cozy, family-friendly package. We want to put this chip in you. We want all your information stored on it, medical history, blah, blah, blah. We'll always be able to know where you, your pet, your kids, everything is. And, sell it to you on a family-friendly platform. And then in the case of the Xbox, it's enhancing your gaming experience, which there's nothing wrong with that. Technology is great. However, when it's sold in a way that is supposed to be beneficial to you and your family, and then the technology is used to physically assault you, then it isn't a great technology. And we have to realize that all of these technologies morph into that. They just do. So you have to either sell it to you on a family-friendly basis or scare the crap out of the populace with another terrorist attack or something along those lines, another economic collapse, and allow the technology to be put into place for the safety and security of the nation. I mean, this is the platform, Doug. Either one and or the other will be used to make this technology, as we've already seen, and things like the TPP more palatable, because we'll need that on the backside of an economic collapse or a meltdown or a global seizure of the credit markets or something along those lines. We'll need to come together globally and have this kind of legislation in place. I mean, so
that's what Facebook's for.
What?
Brings us all back together in one central location, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We all get Zynga poker money that'll keep us occupied. It'd be great.
Yeah, I keep getting those weird requests to play poker. And for those of you who want to contact me or Doug, I'm going to give out our emails right now. I was thinking, because you brought up Facebook, I get a lot of comments on there, and guys, I'm really sorry. I get over there and I try to put the videos up there, but man, I'm just not a fan. I just don't spend a lot of time over there.
No, me neither.
Yeah. info@wideawakenews.com. You can send me, comments or whatever for Wide Awake News Radio or DoonCast. And Doug, what's yours?
Doug at blacklistednews.com.
I know that guy.
Yeah, that's me.
He's a doomer.
Yeah.
And just so you don't think that it's just a couple of wackos, one in Texas and one in Montana, talking about these conspiratorial, evil Federal Reserve, evil bankers, evil globalist takeover. Did you see where we had a Federal Reserve, a member of the Federal Reserve, banker at the Federal Reserve, come out and blow the whistle on all the quantitative easing that has happened since 2009 forward? Andrew Huszar came out and literally apologized to the American people, Doug, for the financial raping of this nation. Did you see this story?
Yeah, I did. And, well, thanks. Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit of what he says. I can only say, I'm sorry, America. As a former Federal Reserve official, I was responsible for executing the centerpiece program of the Fed's first plunge into bond buying experiment known as quantitative easing. The central bank continues to sign QE or to spin QE as a tool for helping Main Street. But I've come to recognize the program for what it really is, the greatest backdoor Wall Street bailout of all time. This isn't Doug Owen. This isn't Blacklisted News or Wide Awake News or DoonCast or Rinse Radio coming out saying, hey, this is a banker bailout, Wall Street bailout. This is a Federal Reserve official who was in charge of the initial quantitative easing. So it is, and I don't know what possessed him to come out and do this. If it's one of them New World Order things where they like to let you know what's going on so you can be this, you could be subjugated and knowingly being subjugated. But this article that this too was from our friend Schneider over at the Economic Collapse, but it's also quite prolific in even establishment media. He's not happy with what the program has accomplished, and he realized it is been used to do nothing more than make too big to fail, completely and totally systemic, even larger than it was before, and like I said, a financial raping of the people of this country and the world, Doug.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of blame and guilt to go around when it came to what happened with the subprime mortgage crisis. A lot of that fell on the hands of George W. Bush and policies that came after September 11, 2001, where we saw the reignition of the economy through this whole idea, this whole notion, and these federal programs to give everybody a house, even if they didn't need a house, if they couldn't afford a house. And so a lot of that came at the force of hand of government through policies that they pushed onto these corporations, not to give them any leeway to wiggle out of this, and not that my commentary would either. Their billions of dollars seems to be coaxing the legal system just fine without my commentary. But my point is that it's not just the banks that bet against the obvious bad subprime loans and lenders that were going after these people, and the criminality in all of these systems to consolidate and to bet against things like these mortgages through the MERS system. But beyond that, it's also the culpability of the government and their policies, and a lot of people forget that, and they completely blame it on Wall Street itself. But it was the government's mandates and restrictions on that. Not that I think it's just an important note that doesn't get the attention and the due blame that it deserves. I mean, we can talk about Hank Paulson and his policies as well.
Yeah, but Doug, I mean, the point is, though, that there is no distinguishing between Wall Street and Washington. There's no distinction there. When Citigroup is writing 70 lines out of 85 in a bill, then when you talk about Wall Street, you're talking about government. Of course, the culpable backstabbing politicians have to be held responsible. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this complete collusion between the two and the revolving door. You mentioned Hank Paulson, former head of Goldman Sachs at 2008, the head of the Treasury. I mean, there is no line. There is no, well, Wall Street, you're bad. Government, you're bad, because they become one and the same.
But a lot of people do try to compartmentalize that blame, and then they try to excuse other things, or they don't.
I agree. And you see that a lot on the red team, right? You'll see especially the business media coming out,
right.
Being apologists for Wall Street. Oh, leave poor Wall Street alone, government. And it makes me laugh because they're speaking to one and the same institution. They're only breaking it down into propagandist bits, bite-sized bits for general consumption.
Right. Yeah, and it's only because of that their ability and we have to understand that the people in Congress are just not going to be able to ultimately be able to regulate, and government's not going to be able to regulate. And so with that understanding that there's that inability, then we have to quit looking to them to be able to save us from
That's right.
all these perils.
Let it all come crashing down, doomers. That's what I say. It's the only way this hubris is coming to an end. It's not going to be Rand Paul'd into a better constitutional republic once again. Doug Owen, DoonCast 15 or 16 in the book. Blacklistednews.com is his website. Co-founder of DoonCast. Thanks very much for doing the double duty with me tonight, Doug.
Yes, sir. DoonCast.com and on Twitter at DoonCast Show.
DoonCast Show on Twitter, DoonCast.com. My name is Charlie McGrath. This is Wide Awake News Radio. I will be back tomorrow night with author Carl Brown. The Prepper is his book. We're going to talk about that. We'll see you tomorrow night at the same time. Have a good night. Peace.
Studying and mumbling the night news to play. The rest of the world watching at the end of the day. Both scared and angry like, what did he say?